to be out with the group. So big them up. I'm sure they'll be on the coming onto the platform in a bit. So welcome. So you've tuned in to the Queens and the science of Melalin and nutrition. You're in for a really interesting session. Those of you who've done intermittent fasting, it will be going a bit more into detail in regards to Melalin nutrition, specifically for us. So I love the sessions that are really centered on us. So have your pens, your pads, your notebooks ready. Please post any questions into the chat. There'll be a Q&A at the end. So all that I ask, if you could please raise your hand. Please have your camera on so we're not talking into a black screen, and you can go ahead and ask any questions. So welcome, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. It's just wonderful to have you tuned into another Queen's session. So let's get started. Once again, a big thank you. I'm just going to tell you a few things. So I've been offline, but we've been busy whilst we've been offline. So we've done our big walk back in January, 29th of January. We raised over £2,000 for charity for Urban Synergy. So there'll be a big presentation at our Queens and Rudy J celebration ball. So we're going to be celebrating the Queen's Walking Group. So something that started it was only meant to be a 6-week thing to get us through the lockdown. So 2 years on, and who would have thought we'd be still, living this way after 2 years coming through the pandemic. But 2 years on, our walking group is 2 years old. So we're having a wonderful celebration dinner on the 2nd of July. Information will go into the chat if you'd like to join us for a sumptuous 3-course meal. We'll have a fashion show. We'll have some bad DJs there spinning some tunes. So if you want to come and drop foot, after 2 years, we might have to have some lessons in how to dance. It's been so long. So, it'd be great to see as many people who've tuned into, the Queens over the last year and a bit. And come and meet us. Come and meet us in person. Yeah, come and meet us in person. It'd be great to just, connect with everybody. So that's what's happening there. We've also got we've got 2, not 1, but 2 Easter cultural markets. The first one is happening on Sunday, 10th of April, which will be at venue 28, which is 28 Beckenham Road, BR3 1LY. Again, you'll come and there'll be an array of wonderful Black businesses showcasing their wares. So there's loads of information on our Instagram page. Please check us out, Queens and Rudy J Media. All the information is on there and it will go into the chat as well. Our second cultural market will be on Good Friday. So it's our Good Friday Easter Cultural Market. That's Friday the 15th of April, and that'll be at the Mansion in Beckenham Place Park, Beckenham BR3. I can't remember the rest of the postcode, but I'm sure it's going to get dropped into the chat. And what's happened so far? I've come back gradually into Zooming. I'm not Zooming as regular. So we do on average probably about 2 months now. So we had a wicked Queens and the Queens of Music. Check that out on Facebook. I can't believe I was raving in my house and got mashed up in my house from all the dancing, and it was just so fantastic. Really, really good session. So big up all the lady DJs that's out there. We had a wicked time that night. So we did that, and we've done Queens, and we did a session around skin. So that was really, really interesting. That was quite international. One of our presenters on the platform was actually coming in from Jamaica. So that was a really, really good session. Again, check us out on our Facebook channel, which is We Love Health and Wellbeing. You can find information about us there. If you go, we have a YouTube channel as well, which is Queen's 2020 Lockdown Series. We've got podcasts where if you like to walk about and listen to things, you can check out the podcast. It's on Spotify, it's on Google, I think it's on Anchor as well. It's on one called Verb, VURBL. I think that's what it's called. It's on about 3 or 4 different platforms. All the sessions that we've done through Zoom, it's all now up on podcast for people to listen. Forthcoming events. Right, what's coming up? I don't stop. You know I don't stop. So what's coming up next? We've got a session coming up in March, and I've called it Queens. It's all gone tits up. So that session is about breast cancer awareness. So we've got a GP coming on the platform and a couple of organisations who are going to specifically talk about breast cancer care, but from a Black perspective. So really looking forward to that session. We've got another session coming up in March, Queens, the fashion industry and Black models experience. So that'll be another really interesting session. So look out for the notifications. So make sure you follow us on Eventbrite, Queens Walking Group, or Queens and Rudy J Media. And that's how you'll be kept informed of all the wonderful events and activities we've got going on. Yeah, and we've got a Zoom party coming up. I don't know when, but I'm going to see if I can get that organised again. Kind of people love to rave. People like to dance, and why not? We love music. So we have some wonderful Queen Zoom sessions coming up. Not as regular, but they're coming up. So get ready. Look out for the notifications. So, oh, and we've also got, in actual fact, I've just remembered, I'm doing a couple of pop-ups. So I'm doing a pop-up in Catford. If you know, anybody knows Catford, the Catford Muse, I'm doing a pop-up in there on the 12th of March. Again, it's a good way to come and connect with me, can talk to you about the walking group and all the different events that we have going on through the year. I'm doing another pop-up, in actual fact, on the 19th of March. That's going to be in Peckham at the Morrisons. And again, I'm looking to create a Queen's walking group in the Peckham and Camberwell area. If anybody is interested in joining any of the walking groups, please, please, please drop a message into the chat and I can connect you up, or we can get one started in your area. So to hear about future Queen's walking groups, please follow us on Eventbrite. This session is being recorded. It's been live streamed through Facebook and also through YouTube. On our Facebook, it's We Love Health and Wellbeing. We've got our Instagram page, which is Queens and Rudy J Media. We've also got a fabulous newsletter, which my wonderful co-writer here, Montrese, they're busy working to get our March newsletter out. So look out for that, full of loads of information. All the presenters that have been on our platform, they're all contributing articles. So that's really, really, oh God, that's on fire. We love the newsletter. So I think that's all the announcements. And what I haven't said, it will be in the chat. So let's get ready for today's session, which is part 2 of the science. It's the Queens, the science of melanin and nutrition. So I'm going to be handing you over to King Joe. I'll tell you a little bit about the course. The course will explore the fundamental relationship between food and melanin. So King Joe, it's over to you. Welcome to the platform. Good to see you. Are you on mute? Ask to unmute. Can you unmute yourself?
Unmute yourself here, Joe. Let me see if I've got a problem here. Go.
All right.
There we go. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's great to be on the platform as always, Joan. Thank you for having me as always. It's always a pleasure to come in and teach and share the secret to our health. Since health is wealth, I'm technically sharing the secrets to wealth. So yeah, I'm very excited. I love doing it. People that know me know I've seen my lectures, understand that this is a passion for me to speak about melanin and how we actually, understand it and take it and comprehend it. So anytime we can, understand melanin in a practical sense is something that I pride myself on. I make sure that whatever information is shared today is about relating to something practical so you can understand something and what it means, because it's important to know what it means and how it can benefit you, because, how we treat this temple would depend on our knowledge of it. If we don't have enough knowledge of it, we can't value it and it can become a problem. So yeah, so today, introduce you to some philosophies and concepts around melanin and talking about where food plays a massive role in how that melanin continues to benefit you or not benefit you in your life. So I'm excited. Can I allow to share my screen if possible? So. So really, can I share my
Is
screen?
it allowing you to share? Sorry, I think
No,
they've changed the settings
There
on
we go.
Zoom. You got it?
There we go. I got it.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the name of this presentation is going to be called Aboriginal Science and Nutrition. Aboriginal just means the original man, that which is indigenous, but every Black person is indigenous, so Aboriginal applies to you as well. The reason why it's called the psychobiological warfare, because this is about how we fight those battles between ourselves and our food and our habits, and how it's either helping us or it's hindering us. But before we can understand that dichotomy, we need to really look within and start to understand all these moving entities that's within our systems that's helping us see, love, learn, create, what's happening us in our immune system, how we break down food and how we turn that food into usable energy, and what happens when we, abuse the body, and what will be the outcome if we continue to abuse it, or what I like to refer to as neglection. It's more about neglecting the body than it is abusing it. So we're going to just really go through a few things here, and we're going to have an amazing Q&A at the end. Some of the information will be very, very deep, but make some notes, have something that you want to ask me at the end, and we can just have a conversation about it. And I would love to see what people think and what have they learned prior to this. And if I'm able to add some value and put things in perspective, then happy days. All right. So cool. So I use this term biocolonialism a lot. It's, for people that's in my lecture know this is a familiar term I use, because it really sums up how I look at how we have been dealt with when it comes to food. And I'm talking about literally everybody. So this is non-race specific. This is just us as a people, how the food industry has completely decided, because everything they're doing is for some form of capital gain. Even though we do have some amazing organizations out there who are eco-friendly and doing their best to push that rhetoric forward, and we support them wholeheartedly, we are still faced with the millions of people that are having to deal with this constant attack on the cellular level. So biocolonialism essentially is the systematic manipulation of the DNA and psychospiritual enslavement of the mind, body, and soul. So anytime you eat food, what does this mean? Anytime you eat food, every time you breathe air, you drink water, it is consistently interacting and speaking with your DNA. Inside your home is speaking with your DNA. If you have pets at home, you will share DNA. It's the same thing. People in your home, you will end up sharing DNA with. It is everything about the ecosystem and how it's interactive with our DNA. Hence why the psychospiritual state of the mind, body, and soul, because certain food allows the body to malfunction and will start to work against itself. Even furthermore, what we'll learn is that even when you are planning a pregnancy or at the point of conception, you pass on the same similar biomarkers to your offsprings regarding obesity, diabetes, and all these things that we look at as a genetic problem. But essentially, it is not a genetic problem, because if we say it is exclusively a genetic problem, then it becomes an inevitability. It becomes something that we cannot stray from or control. But that's not the case. So just because my father, my mother had diabetes doesn't mean I'm going to have it. It's not a guaranteed thing. However, I will have the biomarkers that if I continue to eat in a specific way or mistreat my diet or my lifestyle in a specific way, then I'm more likely at a higher risk to have diabetes. That's what that means. The genetically constructed paradigm consists of the art of being controlled on a biomolecular level in order to dictate thought patterns and behavior through atmospheric and nutritional biochemical warfare. That means that on a cellular level, if I don't feed you the proper food and I give you processed food and it's cheap and accessible, and I flood dairy into the diet, I push all these sugary drinks and all these kind of things, then essentially what I'm doing is dumbing down the frequency of the body. I am causing inflammatory responses for the body. I am confusing the body and what it's doing. I'm creating problems in the gut. 99% of chronic diseases have a correlation with problems that started in the gut. So therefore, I'm inspiring, or I'm motivating or modulating behavior and thought patterns, because certain food groups stimulates the mind, whilst others don't. All right. Sugar being one of them overstimulates the brain, gives you a sugar rush, and then on the low side, you feel down in a bit. That kind of back and ebb and flow is a problem for the body, because the body wants to maintain a consistent rhythm. All right. So that's what that means. but this is the way we open up the conversation. So we look at, okay, the foods we're eating, are they in our favor or are they not? So that is what colonialism is really about. Now, first of all, before we go down that rabbit hole, we need to understand what we are and how expensively brilliant this body is. And if we treat it right, then we will have a much more richful and quality form of life. Melanin is an organic dark carbon chemical pigment substance that gives Black people their skin color, iris, and hair. So the melanin is an organic dark carbon. The carbon, as many of you will be familiar with, is the reason melanin has all its superpowers, right? It is the carbon-based melanin. When carbon turns into a melanin, it becomes this robust, multifaceted entity. It can become part of your cognitive system, your central nervous system. It can become your immune system and all these other things. And also, of course, you know, that basic responsibility of light conversion, taking the sunlight and converting that into usable energy, which in alone is a very, very complex process, but such a unique and powerful one. Whereas sunlight is pure radiation, right? It's radiation on the spectrum. So if you don't have enough melanin, then it could be damaging to a human being. However, that melanin circles around that nucleus and protects it and absorbs all that radiation, converts it into energy. So it actually powers up your cells. But I know I've had people tell me before, hey, I'm light skinned, I've gone out, or I'm dark skinned, how come I'm burning in the sun? What's going on? Obviously, the lighter you are, the more chances are you'll get a bad reaction from the sun. The darker you are, the less likely that's supposed to happen. And if it does happen, it goes back to a dietary situation. You lack chlorophyll in the blood. You don't have enough magnesium that's going to help that process and help deal with that sunlight radiation. So there's different reasons for it, but as a general rule, people of dark complexion do not burn in the sun, right? So examples of melanin as well is it's in your nervous system, brain function, hormone secretion. So don't think progesterone, insulin, all these things are not melanin derivatives. They absolutely are. Muscle tissue, bone, reproductive organs, oxytocin, dopamine, blood regulation, cellular activity. The Black men and women have the spectrum of the human body. We are what they call the archetypal real estate. We are the first of what the prototype would be. So like I look at athleticism, for example, when we look at I think the woman's name, the Jamaican lady that was disqualified or was suspended because she was smoking weed, I think, or something like that. When I dug into it, what was happening is that the female runners had a higher level of testosterone than everybody else, right? So when that happens, sometimes it triggers doping, signals, like something else is happening that's not supposed to be normal, because the Black woman can go either way. She's the archetypal real estate. She can have the amount of testosterone that pushes her muscles and bones and performance level to a certain level, and be as feminine at the same time. She can have both at the exact same time. So that's a problem, and they had to keep changing the rules. So melanin in itself is this powerful elixir that can that what they call pleomorphic. It can morph based on circumstances. It has, you know, family ties with other forms of variation of melanin, such as when you have a melanocyte, which I'm going to show you. And for example, you might have a neuromelanin. So structurally they might be different, but they're similar in their essence and in their molecular structure. They're still dark pigments. And if you disturb the neuromelanin in the brain, it's a problem. That's when you start developing Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, because of the death of melanin in the brain. So reproductive organs, oxytocin, dopamine, when you feel good about yourself, that's all melanin. When you're in love with someone, that feeling you get, that's called dopamine, oxytocin, that's all melanin derivatives, right? So when we talk about the cycles, so we talk about melanin is also responsible for the overall well-being of the Black man and woman via the pineal gland, which is responsible for the psychospiritual consciousness and physiological functions of the body. We're talking about holistic health now. We're saying how we treat this melanin will depend on the whole body, not just one part of the body. Because adrenaline, epinephrine, all these things, cortisol, are also melanin derivatives, right? When I say melanin derivatives, meaning they are a form subset version of melanin, or they have the inception in the melanin molecule, okay? How would our ancestors look at it, right? Our ancient ancestors has a fascination with melanin in their texts and paintings. You would find green and black melanated gods. The green meant copper and the black carbon in the ancient mystery system, which the science dictated when put together in a cyclic motion creates electricity and a magnetic field. Our ancestors understood that this black substance is also a subconductor of electricity. They understand that melanin is a much needed molecule that allows the physical and psychological mind to transcend. So even if you look at the technology on nanotechnology, for example, they're looking into melanin to study it so they can do biomechanics. So they can, if you lose an arm and they want to replace it with a robotic arm, they need something that gels well and interferes with the body. The problem is it is the radiation and the poisoning from the material that makes that leap forward very, very difficult. But with nanotechnology, they can duplicate synthetic melanin that's able to absorb any problems and able to strengthen that area. So you can understand why melanin is such a valuable thing. But the problem is the people that are blessed with it just don't get how important it really, really is, or just have the information or the education, because this is something that's been lost in translation for many, many years. But essentially, with its undoubtedly connection to the solar and cosmological space, it is safe to say melanin is pure energy derived from sunlight and earth matter. So what am I talking about here? I'm trying to explain to you that melanin is everywhere. It's in nature, the birds, the fungi, the plants, in space. Melanin is everywhere, and it is organic melanin that makes something human, right? If you don't have organic melanin in you, you're not going to be human. Yes, even Europeans, people from Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, they all have melanin. There's nobody on this planet that does not have melanin. And I'm going to explain the different types of melanin available so you understand thoroughly what I am saying. So before that, melanin DNA. So L-tyrosine is the chemical building block called an amino acid. So it's an amino acid, it's a chemical building block that makes a protein. This amino acid form the molecular structure for the proteins, a class of molecules upon which all life depends. So this L-tyrosine is found on the 11th chromosome and supports the production of neurotransmitters, hormones, and pigments. So on the 11th chromosome, it goes through a process called melanogenesis. And melanogenesis is the creation of melanin when sunlight hits that skin and hits that melanin. So when that sunlight or light hits that pineal gland, it stimulates melanogenesis. Melano means black, genesis means creation or the beginning of. So the beginning creation of that melanin, right? So after that process, you can get pheomelanin or eumelanin or neuromelanin. Neuromelanin is in the brain. So you hear the word neuro, it's always brain, right? And you have eumelanin, which is eumelanin, which is for black and brown people. Pheomelanin, right, is what Europeans have and people from Southeast Asia all have. It is pheomelanin. People with eumelanin also have pheomelanin, right? You also have both. You have both. And for a white person that has black hair, they have eumelanin in their hair. So just so you get a aesthetic of what I'm actually trying to say. So what is pheomelanin? Pheomelanin imparts a pink or reddish hue. Depending upon the concentration, pheomelanins are particularly concentrated in the lips, nipples, glands of the penis and vagina. So in the womb, in the vagina, in the penis, in your mouth, that pink bit there is all the pheomelanin, okay? So you have both, right? Whereas Europeans and everyone else have a predominant pheomelanin background. Now, to make those two things, it goes through a process where L-tyrosine, the amino acid, is using tyrosinase, which is an enzyme, to start that process into dopaquinone, and they use oxygen. So in that process, oxygen is used to create black people. And when that oxygen is replaced with sulfur, you make pheomelanin, which are Europeans, right? So that sulfur is the replacement of that oxygen to make pheomelanin, but through that oxygen, it goes through an oxidization process, just like a banana. When you see the black spots all over the banana is going through an oxidation process. When you buy an apple and you leave it out, with the use of oxygen, it starts to go through an oxidization process that gives off carbon as a side effect. So in your oxidization process, you create that dark pigment called carbon, right? So that's what it's about. And it's made in something called a melanocyte. And inside the melanocyte, it has something called a melanosome where the melanin is actually made. Now, other function of melanin is absorption of UV, right? Phototoxic. When you say phototoxic, photo in biology means light, right? And so phototoxic and photosynthesized. Thermoregulation, free radical quencher, means that anytime you have inflammation, your melanin will start to, your melanin itself is an antioxidant. So antioxidants are for free radicals. Free radicals is what cause inflammation in the body. Antioxidants stop that process from happening. Your melanin in itself is a natural antioxidant. Protects against lipid pre-oxidation, photoprotection and photoaging. That's why Black people age differently. Protection from photocarcinogenesis, right? Photo meaning light, carcinogenesis means that the beginning of cancerous or the creation of cancerous environments. Regulation of vitamin D synthesis, because why? Your body is using sunlight to turn cholesterol into vitamin D, right? Camouflage and sex appeal. Your attraction to a woman is based on your melanin as well. Your attraction to a man is based on melanin. Attraction across people is based on melanin pheromones, okay? Just give examples of how deep it goes. So melanosome, the precise fate or the function of a melanosome vary according to cell type. Epidermal melanocytes supply neighboring keratinocytes, skin cells, with melanosomes, which results in the pigmentation of skin and hair. Now I'm gonna give an exact look about this. So this is what the melanocyte looks like typically. So this, there's different variations of the drawings of it, but essentially this is what a melanocyte looks like, right? So this is the cell that creates melanin pigmentation. So every Black person will have billions of these underneath their skin that creates this blackness that we're all seeing. It is this cell that is solely responsible for that. So now this cell is important. So here's another example of this cell. So this is the melanocyte, as you can see it here. This is the keratinocyte. This is your neighboring skin cells. And you can see the melanosomes pushing the dark melanin pigments into the cells enough to make them dark or black. So when sunlight hits the body or you're in contact with light, within your circadian rhythm, which is your internal body clock, your body biologically knows to create more melanin. That's why if you go underneath the sun, what color does everyone start to go? Darker, okay? So give me some background about this. Now, aesthetically, if you look at the cell, this is very interesting now. I want to make a quick ancient reference to correlate it back to our ancestors and why this knowledge is so powerful for us to understand and how connected we are to the days of old. So this aesthetically, this cell, right? Our ancestors in the Dogon mythology call this Dada or the spider. You can imagine a group of people so advanced in their technological thinking without a microscope or a apparatus understanding this very principle. So they talk about Dada, and I'm going to introduce you to Dada, which is mother, in the Dogon mythology, and why this mother is so important for you to understand the philosophy of how our ancestors understood creation, and being part of that creation means taking care of this melanin on so many different levels. So aesthetically, we can look at it as a cell with dendrites, tentacles. I call them tentacles, but obviously scientifically they're called dendrites. These tentacles go into these dendrites, as I say, go into the keratinocyte cells, which are your skin cells, and make them darker in complexion. Now, the Dogon spider Dada, this is what our ancient ancestors understood about creation. Dogon spider Dada, the weaver of the primordial thread. In fact, the connection between Dogon spider and the Egyptian mother goddess is strengthened by an entry in the Dictionnaire Dogon by French scientists who went to Mali and started to study astrology and creation and all those principles, and they wrote a whole biography about it. According to this dictionary, the Dogon word Dada means mother, right? When Egyptian mythology states that Neith wove the world on her shuttle, right? So wove the world on her shuttle. I want you to keep this in mind. It is significant that this essentially attributes the existence of the world to movement of threads, just like Dogon mythology and modern string theory. So they're finding a connection between modern string theory and how the Dogon mythology kind of anthropomorphizes this philosophy. Basically, we understood creation, but we did it allegorically and using parables to tell the story. Human beings are storytelling animals by nature. We think in story mode. We explain and articulate ourselves in story. Our ancestors will teach or impart knowledge through story. Now, this is very powerful. Moreover, the hieroglyphic language provides us with a direct connection to the coil primordial thread of the Dogon by means of its alternate hieroglyphic word for thread, fist, which comes from the root word fist, which carries two meanings, to coil. So now if we look at weaving, right, on the primordial thread, or spider weaving matter, really this is the psychological part of it, weaving matter, right, taking some particle elements and weaving them into solid matter, just like when you're in the mother's womb and you're being woven on the shuttle, right? This is just linguistical challenges we have when we're studying our ancient systems to understand melanin, understand this. There's too much language barriers. So I'm going to demystify some of the language here. The reality of it is there is a correlation being shown. So as a melanated individual, you have this ancient information in your DNA already. So right now, I'm just speaking to something that is in your subconscious already. So this spider is weaving, right, matter into formation. As you develop in your mother's womb, you're being woven from subparticle elements into the matter we see today, whether through cellular division or whatever you want to call it. Now, in ancient Egyptian system, Neith wove man and woman on her shuttle out of clay, if you study the Egyptian mythology. Now, go back to the Dogons, right? Creation was through a story about Amma's eggs and the Numos, talking about how a sperm and egg fertilized to create life. In the first, when you're a zygote, you split into 3 layers of skin: the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. Derm in biology means skin. You split into 3 layers of melanin that will later on become your nervous system, your skeletal system, your hair, nose, brain, organs, right? It's called the neural crest cell. So your original first cell splits itself into melanin completely. And out of that melanin, out of that darkness, out of that abyss comes forth life. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because without melanin, you can't have a child anyway. Without melanin, a man's sperm will be barren. It is still melanin is the prevailing molecular framework that creates life, okay? So it's important for us to understand that, right? And photons are the quantum units of light that we connect with that makes this melanin spiritual, that makes this melanin dark, that makes this melanin powerful for performance-wise in terms of what you're able to do physically, emotionally, and mentally, right? Photon is an elementary particle, the quantum of light, and all forms of electromagnetic radiation. It is the force carrier for electromagnetic force. And this thing is interacting and speaking to your essence. And when it's speaking to your essence, the reason why we can't hear this, I'm gonna use the word language for a minute, but I'm not talking about oral language. I'm talking about a communication system between 2 entities. Because bear in mind, if you study the indigenous cultures, they talk about being in one with the nature and speaking to nature, not just necessarily verbally, but having that innate understanding of what nature's needs are, because I'm a part of that creation system myself. Right, so let's get to the problem that is ruining all this glorious melanin that we're sitting on. What are we doing with this genetic inheritance? All this beautiful inheritance, you've been birthed into a lineage of brilliance and complete psychological, mental, and emotional advancement, right? Not over anybody else, but just as your own being collectively. We are using food to either destroy this melanin or propel it forward, right? Studies show that 80% of Black people over 50 or 60 years old will end up with some form of diabetes or hypertension, right? And that is not acceptable, because it means most of us will have some medical issues down in the future and will be on medication for it. Culinary historian and author Jessica Harris has this quote, and I think is one of the most powerful quotes I've heard around food and culture. Food tradition holds symbols and meanings that serve as a historical roadmap. We know what Caribbean food is. It depends what type of Caribbean, part of the Caribbean you're from. Everybody has their staple food that identifies those people. Chinese have their food, right? You go to India, you go to the north, west, south, they'll have their food that represent those parts. Even in England, in Ghana, in Nigeria, wherever you're from, we have food culture. The food of the people tell you a lot about the people. You come to the West and you see us push more processed food than healthy food, then you will know that if you look at the disease rates, you'll see it will be high. If you go to a country that pushes more vegetation and more balanced diet and healthy living, the mortality rate is much more better than where we have in other places. And you see different, forms of less sickness, or people just having, a low rate of disease or outbreaks or so forth, right? So it's about looking at, in paleontology, they talk about how you can look at a civilization based on the food they cultivated, and it will tell you the type of human beings those foods will create. Because if I tell you you're on a sugar diet with processed sugar, lots of takeaway food, and all of these type of things, am I going to expect you to be a muscular human being that's running like Usain Bolt? No, I'm not going to expect that, because essentially the food in our fridge say a lot about us. And because that is about food identity, your food is connected to your identity and even to a culture at large, okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. Food in the ancient world. Let's look back about how our ancestors used to eat. By studying the hair of ancient Egyptians, excuse me, a team of French scientists were able to determine that Egyptians ate a primarily vegetarian diet on a very consistent basis. Given the abundance of resources available to this particular ancient civilization, it appears that vegetarian diet was more of a choice than a necessity. The article published in Inside Science explains that eating lots of meat is a recent phenomenon. In ancient cultures, vegetarianism was more common. But this is not to say that the ancient Egyptians weren't eating meat because they didn't have ready access to it every day, in like the way we do. Scientists highlight the fact that fishing was a common practice along the Nile, and yet scientists did not find fish proteins in the Egyptian diet, but rather it just seems that a diet high in fruits, vegetables, and grains was part of their cultural tradition. Of course it was. And when Egypt was invaded, right, because we have our Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom with intermediary periods in between, if you study Egyptian culture. And every time we had intermediary periods, we were invaded. And when we invaded, we adopted the invasion's way of doing things and way of eating, living. They changed this, they changed that. But essentially, indigenous people would have used more vegetation. It was more practical to feed people because it was everywhere. They're going out to hunt an animal that could be extinct tomorrow or hibernate for months and you can't even find it, right? It just was not practical for a growing civilization. Now, I'm not saying it is eating meat and fish and all these things is automatically bad. That is not the point I'm making. What I really want to use this for is to highlight the fact that vegetation should be predominantly of what you ingest. Predominantly. That's the way I always look at it, and that's the way I teach it, is predominantly most of the things you should be eating should be veggie, fruits, drinking lots of water, 2 liters minimum. That is actually the staple diet for a healthy body as far as a balanced diet is concerned, right? Making sure that you get all the necessary micro and macronutrients you need. Micro mean trace minerals. It's talking about your iodine, your selenium, and things of that nature, where macro minerals are your carbohydrates, proteins, and things of that nature. You need a balanced diet that ticks off these boxes to make sure that you get the maximum nutrition that you can get out of these things. So this is not you should not be eating meat, you should not be eating fish. That is not what I'm saying. Because as a consultant, I also understand that different people are at different places and also different people require specific things over other things, right? So I understand that. So this just to let you know that vegetarianism is more natural to the body than adding everything else in. And Lord knows if you were in the Caribbean, Africa, or someplace like that, when they're killing the animal fresh, it's different. But you know they pump hormones and this and that and coloring and this and that, and there hence the problem, okay? So, but it's not about understanding that. The physiology of hunger, right? So hunger is now known to be regulated on a short-term basis, right? You're not going to die if you don't eat for a few hours. You'll be fine. I know it feels like you're dying, but trust me, you'll be absolutely fine, right? By 2 cluster cells called the nuclei in the hypothalamus of the brain, the ventral medial hypothalamus, which is the VMH, and the lateral hypothalamic nuclei. So this is the part of the brain that's saying, hey guys, we are hungry. It is communicating with another hormone in your stomach called Ghrelin and another hormone called Melanin concentrated hormones. They decide if you're hungry. You understand? They decide if you're hungry. Now, Ghrelin responds to protein and fiber. If you don't have enough protein and fiber in your diet, you will be constantly hungry. Constant hunger is a sign of cellular deficiency. What does that mean? If you're hungry all the time, it means you are nutritionally deficient. If you're nutritionally doing well, hunger should not be the case. Do you understand what I'm saying? You should be hungry every moment. This is not the natural status for the body to be craving food constantly, right? That's because a lot of the carbohydrates we take are white carbs, basically your rice, your pasta, your white potatoes and things of that nature. Your body receives that as heavy amounts of sugar and glucose. Right? So your Ghrelin for your hunger is not responding to that. It's responding to your protein and your fiber. So having a balanced diet means you shouldn't be hungry all the time. So your melanin concentrated hormones, your Ghrelin is communicating with your hypothalamus and saying, hey, I'm hungry for food, right? But hunger is really telling you that the body needs a top up of energy. So you got to ask yourself, what food do you have in your cupboard that has the maximum energy? Right? And we want energy from a good source, not a bad source. Let's get to my next one. Oh, sorry about that. So the physiology of craving. Those who don't have food cravings might say that such cravings are all in your head, and new research suggests that they are right. It is all in our heads. Several specific areas of our brain, actually, areas of the brain responsible for memory and sensing pleasures are partially to blame for keeping those food cravings coming. Now, when you're craving a particular meal or dish, when you eat food, your amygdala takes stock of pleasurable things and traumatic things. It records these things as fight or flight symptoms and weave them into that system. So your amygdala is also part of your fight or flight, but it also records pleasure and trauma. So when you take something pleasurable, it remembers that ice cream you like. It knows how it tastes. It knows the creaminess of that ice cream. It knows how it feels, the adrenaline you get, the dopamine rush. It's playing that like a commercial, like an advertisement in your head when you start craving something. And when you have strong cravings, it's also a sign of nutritional deficiency. Your body's not built to crave sugary things. Those sugary things are changing the neural connections in your brain and changing how your amygdala is working. Because what is it doing when you're on a diet or you're trying to eat healthy and you see something you know you shouldn't eat, but you're drawn to it and your mind starts giving you reasons why you should be eating it and why it's ridiculous that you're not eating it, right? And doing that, you're going for a fight or flight response. You know you shouldn't eat this. You know you're eating in a more healthy way, but your amygdala is telling you like, but it tastes so good though. We look at the smell and this is what we like, and who can tell us what we can eat and what we cannot eat, right? I've been there, so we can get to that space because your amygdala is overwhelmed with that emotional response. And when it does that, your amygdala shuts down critical thinking, right? This is why it's more important to develop good habits than to go off consciousness, because you cannot depend on your mind in the middle of a fight or flight situation. You cannot depend on what you think you will do at that time. Habits are more dependable. Because regardless of how you feel, what you do habitually will fall into your subconscious mind and you will just do it, right? So it's important for you to understand that craving is not a great thing. If you're craving constantly or want to eat constantly, your cells are nutritionally deficient and you need to be eating more nutritionally. A balanced diet, you're not supposed to eat 4 or 5 times a day, not 2-3 plates at one sitting. All these things is what is inducing all the inflammation and all the pending chronic diseases that's going to happen if you neglect to eat properly, exercise, rest, and stay hydrated, okay? So quick question to the group as I come to the end. What side of this slide are you eating from? If you're eating from the left, put an L in the chat, please. If you're eating some things from the right, this is not a course to call people out and judge anyone. This is just for me to understand where everyone is in their journey, and how much, their understanding from today's workshop could help them. And that's the main point of this. This is not a name and blame situation, but I'm just curious in just my scientific brain. Can you put an L if you eat from the left-hand side? Can you put a right if you eat from the right-hand side? Put an L and R in the chat, please, if you eat from both sides, whether it's more on the healthy side or if it's not more on the healthy side. Who's eating right? Let's keep it real. Sometimes we eat from the left and right-hand side. We're not perfect. We're just trying to figure it all out. Because it's important to know. So when we understand that what these food are doing, then we can have them in moderation. We can even get rid of some stuff, right? And find a better practical way to actually approach the scenario. Because sometimes we eat healthy, sometimes we just eat bad, depending on mood, emotions, needs, wants. These things all modulate our desires and the things we think we need or perceive will be good for us. The point here is about structure, portion control, and having a balanced way of living. It is about a harmonious way of living. Everything in your biology wants a harmonious rhythm to go with it. It's because your melanin also works on your circadian rhythm. The food you put on it will affect what it can do. An example for this would be eating late, right? Sleep, the best part of your sleep will be from like 10 to 12 or 1 o'clock. That's the best part of your sleep. If you got food sitting in your stomach at 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you have a snack at 12, you're interfering with the job that the melatonin needs to do. And secondly, you put more insulin in your blood, which means you don't produce enough human growth hormones when you're asleep. Why is this a bad thing? Because human growth hormones are the things that help you recover from illness, fight illness, repair cells, help your bones, muscles, tissue grow, regeneration, healing, recovery, giving you more energy in the morning. That's what, and burning fat as well. Your melanin concentrated hormones burn a lot of fat and sleep for energy. So When you're eating late, you're disturbing this amazing process that your body is going through. When you eat all this inflammatory food, you're disturbing the natural process, right? The closer you are to nature, the more healthy you are. The further you away from nature, the more sick you are going to be, all right? Because if you continue to eat like that, this is what happens, right? Sorry, I apologize for the graphic, but sometimes it just helps drive the point home. Common symptoms of parasites in humans. This is my last slide, but it's good food for thought. Constipation, gas, bloating, diarrhea, pains or aches in the back, joints or muscles, irritable bowel syndrome, allergies, increased appetite, itchy ears, nose or anus, nervousness or grumpiness, chronic fatigue, lethargy or apathy, various skin problems, tooth grinding or clenching, anemia, excess weight, forgetfulness, vision problems, and problems sleeping are all tied to parasites in the body. These parasites, guess what they love the most? Sugar. Oh, these parasites love sugar more than you. In fact, in some studies, these parasites secrete chemicals that make you crave sugar. So when you feed it with sugar, junk food, and all these things, these parasites become bigger and they multiply. They multiply into your chronic fatigue, your various skin problems, your tooth grinding, your constipation. It goes into that. Itchy anuses during when you have piles or constipation or gas or bloating are also tied to possible signs of parasites. And why it's important is that as these parasites continue to grow, it's based really on what you put in your body. So it's based on they're pleomorphic. They will change based on the environment. So that's why eating a balanced diet and eating less sugar, increasing your fiber and protein with your veggies is far more sustainable as a habit towards health. You know, if you want to enjoy something on the weekend, great. What about a Monday to Friday healthy eating, right? So let's say Monday to Wednesday, you're intermittent fasting. From 12 to 8 is your eating window. And after that, you don't eat no more. Thursday, Friday, right? You're healthy, balanced eating, but you're not intermittent fasting. Saturday, Sunday, you relax a little bit, structure. So you still get to eat the things you want to eat, but at least majority of the things that you consume on a weekly basis are in line with your health, right? That's the best way I can just put that. But essentially, this is what we're feeding with our junk food. We feed this. Your body doesn't pull a damn thing from none of the junk food you put in your body. The only thing in your body that loves the income of tons of sugar is the parasites. Making sense? Normally after this slide, I lose 100 followers, but I get it. But at the end of the day, I have to literally make it known, right? We have to speak the truth. We have to understand the layers of damage we create in our body and why it should be unacceptable, because we're passing this on to the next generation to deal with, and they're going to keep dealing with it when really we don't have to if we educate the next generation on how to eat properly. Smoothies is something that's in my household every morning. Especially when we're not intermittent fasting, smoothies on the list, first and foremost. I can't imagine not having one before I put a solid in my body. I gotta have one. I want to have a balanced diet. I've got to have my veggies. I've got to have my salad. I've got to have my proteins and certain things like that. I've got to have enough food, of quality food in my diet. Do you understand? And if I'm going up to a restaurant, I can be a bit more relaxed because majority of my week in, week out is a lot more healthier. So we're just looking for a structure that helps put things in a much more better way, right? But if we could just start by the first step we can all do from today is cut down sugar. Cut down on the sugar, right? We have a 6 weeks program on in depth on this, and I have a lot to say about sugar, right? By the time people finish my course, they will hear my voice every time they see sugar, because I can't stress enough why I need to get Black people away from the sugar. Because that there is one of the most toxic things you put in your body. Nothing else you put in your body, not alcohol, not nothing, will do more damage than what sugar can do. Because people think sugar, they think either toothache or BCE and stuff like that. But sugar affects children's learning, affects adults' memory. Sugar will do that. Sugar will heart cardiovascular problems. Sugar causes cardiovascular problems. Of course, obesity, diabetes, of course, toothache and stuff like that. But there's a ton of things that sugar does in the body. It weakens the immune system, of course, completely. It disturbs the brain's ability to think and focus. It messes with your hormones completely and keep periods heavy and keep men's testosterone low. Sugar will do that, right? So that's all I want to speak on that. I'll speak for a minute, but that's all I want to say on that. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. I hope there's some important philosophies and ideas that was presented today that will have you thinking in the right direction of the importance of this melanin and why we should protect it by all means necessary. Because we are doing better as a community. We're eating more healthy. We're being more health conscious. The Queen's Walk is up and running. We've got so many groups of people engage in exercise and nutrition and different things. So I see good things for the community, and we just have to keep on sharing the knowledge, telling a friend to tell a friend, get some smoothie in your diet instead of coffee, right? Smoothie will do more for your body than a coffee will ever do, right? Drink more water, right? Then have a balanced diet. Wait until the weekend to have the other stuff that you like. Wait till the weekend. But if it's impulsive and sporadic, then you have no control. Food is about control, and with control, you can enjoy every bite, all right? So any questions? I am here.
Another fantastic presentation, Joe. And really, you know, people need to be eating for purpose, not just, you know, eating. And it's really about being educated, understanding what you're eating. And I think that's the downfall. We're in this society now. I mean, I've done the intermittent fasting challenge with you. I did it back, I think it was last January, we did the first one. And when we were sort of like getting prepared to go on the challenge, it was a huge mind shift. I remember going into a particular supermarket and standing there thinking, oh my God, what am I going to buy? Because almost 90% of what they had on the shelves, stacked to the rafters, we should not be eating. So, you know, all the process, all the packets and the tins and all, you know, the rest of it is things that we should just really be eating fresh, and sticking to things basically like water, your vegetables, you know, etc. So come on, guys, come on, all of you on the platform. Now is an opportune time to ask Joe any questions. All that I ask, if you could please put your hand up put your hand up so I can see you, and put your camera on because we don't like talking to a black screen, and ask away. Are there any questions? Oh, Montrese, my darling.
Yeah, it's so good. I said a lot today. So
moderator, have we got any questions in the chat? Or is the chat being quiet?
Give me 1 minute, Montrese. I've just got a problem here. 1 minute. See you now.
Yeah.
I'm Montrese. Would you unmute? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's been quiet, but I have questions.
Okay.
I have 3, but I'll save them one at a time. So I'll ask you one and then we'll wait. So my first question comes from when you, Joe, were talking about melanin.
Yeah.
So besides being in the sun, is there something that we can do externally to stimulate the internal production of melanin?
Apart from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
There've been claimed to be some food groups like cherries and things of that nature, but realistically, it's really to do with more sunlight that's going to do it. But as far as melanin, it's more about how well the melanin is functioning than how much you have, because
Okay.
it's more of like, if you're living a healthy lifestyle, then that melanin is in harmony and working in your body for your immune system, your cognitive function, and all these things, and especially your mood. You know, when we talk about health and mental health amongst the Black community, what we're looking at is that we have a dip in serotonin. Our serotonin levels are not high enough. We're not having enough self-esteem or, you know, a boost of our own confidence. Why? Our environment is very hostile towards us as people. So, you know, whether it be colorism for the Black women, whether it be racism and exclusion and all these things, if you don't feel great about yourself and you grow into an adult, it's going to be a problem and affect your serotonin levels. So you start to eat junk to try to give you that feel good, that dopamine kick, so you could just get through that moment where it's happening. But in reality, we have to just heal from that and start to pick healthy foods, because in the healthy foods, we're able to keep that hormone balance, keep the mind functioning, and we start to develop that self-esteem and that self-love that we've been internalizing in the wrong way this whole time. So it's more about how we treat the melanin than the amount of it, because whether you're a light-skinned Black person, whether you're a dark-skinned Black person, it's about how we treat ourselves that's going to count. as far as what we put in our bodies and mouth, because the more melanin you have, the more darker you're going to get, right? So, but just being darker doesn't give you no particular advantage, except for the sun, of course.
Good, very good. Thank you.
Excuse me, Joe. Joe, are you still
Yeah.
sharing your screen by any chance?
No.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
All right, can I ask another one?
Yeah, of course.
How much sunlight does a person need on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Depends from person to person, from complexion to complexion, what you're used to. But essentially, if you go on holiday, I do always try to, you know, I know we live in this work to the bone type of society where, you know, there's cuffs on you, you can't go nowhere, right? But I do encourage Black people to try and find a summer holiday, a quick vacation, even if it's in Europe. It doesn't have to be back home because it's not always practical, right? But get in a place where it's just beaming with sunlight and try and get out there and do like 20-minute intervals at a time. Because the realism is that if you're not used to that type of sun, going out there, you can burn, people get nosebleeds, it's unpleasant. So it's not just everybody just jump in the sun. That would be very dangerous. It depends. Obviously, for someone like yourself, you're fair skin, 20-minute intervals are quite cool, because if you do longer, it might be a problem. Obviously, if you feel too hot, it's a problem. Get out of the sun. We don't want one dying of dehydration and things of that nature. So that answer is not straightforward to say how many hours is this. It does vary from person to person, but I do tell people 20-minute intervals, take a break for a second, cool your body down and stuff like that. Maybe, you know, get into an ice bath or whatever, and get back out there. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes, depending on how fair skinned the person is, I'm like, yeah, put a sunblock on. You still get a lot of vitamin D, but at least you're not burning to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't like when Black people say, oh, you don't need no sunscreen. Black people don't need sunscreen. I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course they do. Of course they do. Because at the end of the day, it's like all of us, we're not monoliths. So every Black person is not the same directly. You know what I mean? So our response to our environment varies so much that, of course, some people do burn in the sun and stuff like that.
It's interesting that you should say that, because I've noticed since I've been back here in the UK, you noticed how fair my complexion is. But when I was living in America, it didn't look like this. Yeah,
it got darker, right? It's the environment here. The way the environment is set up here is that we don't have readily access to the things we need. So even the quality of the food is not to the par for the type of minerals and things that Black people need. Even the cultivation in the West, like selenium is one of the things they don't pay attention to. But selenium is one of the essential minerals for melanin, but it's been taken out of the soil in the West. So just to give you an example, if you go to, that's why when you go to the Caribbean, you go to America, to certain places where there's independent farming, there's different things that go on, people are buying their own lots and growing their own stuff. Them Americans are not playing. They don't trust the government on a fundamental level anyway. So they just go build their own thing. So in the UK, I'm seeing a growth of people coming together, buying lots and farming and stuff like that, because that is going to be the future. That is going to be the only way to do this, and getting some agriculture behind you won't hurt at all. But if you go to other places, of course, when I go abroad, I get darker. When I come to the West, I get a bit more paler because lack of sunlight. Just way less sun. That's just all it is. You know what I mean? It's way less daylight. That's why, especially in the winter, everyone goes pale because the days are shorter too. So, you know, outside for as long.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. I have one more.
Of course.
And then I don't have any more. So what does your eating menu look like in any given day?
It varies so much, right? Because I love food just like the next man. So mine varies so much. So for example, to be honest, because I've intermittent fasted for so long, what happens is your craving for food is the last thing on your mind when you've done it for years. So if I've had a busy day today, it's now 8:10. Chances of me eating is 0. I'm just gonna have, because I juiced earlier, so I'm just finishing my juices and stuff I'm having. But I just been busy. So I realized that once you're healthy living and you prioritize your health, you find yourself more focused, more energy, more things like that. So my typical day will be, I'll have a smoothie. If I'm not intermittent fasting that day at 10 o'clock, I'll have a smoothie, have a bottle of water. This is all before after my run. So I'm working. I might eat something around 4 o'clock, something small. If I have a busy day, I eat less because I find food weighs me down. So if I have a busy day, I try to eat less because I just find food makes me tired. Now I'm sluggish and now I don't want to go where I'm supposed to have been from 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? So I try to, if my day is very busy, eat less. I just get more done. I realize when my days not busy and I eat, I go to town on the food, I find myself a bit more sluggish and stuff like that. So I'll have that. And then in the evening, I love soups. So I might have a soup, or I might have what I had earlier. I'll have some nuts if I'm feeling peckish. I love cherries, so I'll pick up cherries, things of that nature. So I'll pick at it because I love picking. I'll find grapes and cherries, things I can pick at. So even if I end up eating half of the bowl, I'm like, oh, okay, it was cherries, versus if I bought like junk food and now I've got like, you know what I mean? Because if you eat if you like snacks, for example, like if you have a chocolate every day, like a Snickers bar, for example, you can end up ingesting over 50, grams of sugar. Do you understand what I'm saying? Almost every day. This is a ridiculous amount. So I try to just watch that sugar as much as I can. And I realize the more healthy I am, the less craving for sugar I have. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a bit of a scope of how I eat. But easy, I can go 2 days without thinking about food. Yeah. Just out of habit of intermittent fasting, not because I'm trying to do some miracle thing.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for answering the questions. Excellent.
No worries.
Thank you. Well, guests on the platform, do we have any more questions in regards to intermittent fasting, in regards to the fantastic course? So can you tell us a bit more about the course, Joe?
Yes, of course. Okay. So basically, I've been lecturing around the country for a while before COVID, and I decided that it makes sense to come up with a course, because I would do workshops for like 3-4 hours, 2-hour workshops. Sometimes I've done a 6-hour workshop. And the information, I realized even 6 hours wasn't even enough to really give people all the information I had available with me. So I was like, we're going to do the 6-week program that really deep dives into everything you've heard today. So everything you've heard today, the course is a 6-week program every Sunday at 7:45, I think, or something like that. But it's going to be recorded and sent if people can't make it. And then we're going to have a WhatsApp group where we do study nights, where we focus on different conversations. And really what I want to do is take people deeper into the melanin conversation and nutritional conversation, and trying to take them to a more advanced level so they can be exactly where I'm at, and have that conversation with their family, with their friends, because too much diabetes is around, too much hypertension, way too much obesity, way too much cardiovascular problem. In the past month and a half, I've had 5 males I've known collapse because of cardiovascular issues. These are men that stay in the gym. These are not boys that are overweight or unhealthy. They are athletic men. But the stress, right? These are entrepreneurial men, the stress of working, raising a family, doing this, doing that. Same thing for the Black woman, when she's stressed, doing all these things. Here comes fibroids, fibromyalgia, all these things. The central nervous system starts to break down, because we're dealing with that general Henryism that I've mentioned multiple times. There's a link between socioeconomical class and disease. There's a link between stress and Black people's psychological breakdown. So looking at all of those things, I wanted to create a course that really took you deep into your own biology, and so you can map out your whole body. So by the time you finish this course, you understand exactly what the world offers you that can make you sick or make you feel good. You know what I mean? And understand your impulses, understand your cultural connection to food, understand why you identify with those things, breaking habits, diving deeper into the psycho-spiritual part of it. When we talk about spirituality, and we're talking about all these crystals and coppers that we put on our bodies that are amazing, and part of our ancestral rituals, that really keep your energy good and keep bad energy away. But if your body is tainted with sugar, dairy, all these kind of things, the connection that's supposed to be established is going to be struggling, because our ancestors taught us that your blood is the carrier, the message carrier, and if your blood is polluted, the message is also compromised. And that's what they teach. So if that be the case, it means this course is about exploring what your ancestors studied when it comes to the biochemistry of the human body, looking at how modern science deals with it, looking at melanin as far as recovery from illness. We're going through this pandemic and things of this nature. Why were Black people more at risk, for example? You can only understand that if you understand the genetics of the Black person and why it's a problem, right? And an example I'll speak more about on the course is like the fact that you have relatively more spike proteins on your cells, which makes it more susceptible to disease. Black people genetically are more susceptible to disease, not because it's natural. This is years of trauma-induced stress that's terraformed our DNA, making us predisposed to cardiovascular problems, diabetic problems, and all these other problems. These are trauma-based genetic problems. So we're going to go dive deeper into see where on a biochemical level, racism even plays its part in how we interact with our environment, and how that pushes us to overeating and overweight, and how that pushes us into self-hating. So we don't look after our body, we neglect it. So this program is really designed to bring us up to speed on the conversation that me and Leo Marshall will have about melanin, and we want the whole community to be just as advanced about who they are and what they are. So when they go into certain places, they can share that knowledge with other human beings. So that is the point of the 6 weeks program.
Wow, I'm here thinking, my goodness, it's such a massive area. Is 6 weeks enough?
Yeah, right, exactly. But I realized I did this for 3 months. I realized people were like, I can't do 3 months. And like the first 6, 7 weeks, they were like, yes. After that, they're like, bro, my brain. And I was like, cool. 6 weeks is much more easier to kind of, and we have the study group as well. So whatever was spoken about in class, we can go back and forth and really deep dive and unpack these things. And, you know, there's a viral video about melanin going around and stuff like that. Things like that we can discuss and have a biological perspective on it. So yeah, I'm really excited to have these melanin conversations and see where we can elevate the community's consciousness around it.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait for it to all get started. I can see Mel, you've got your camera on. Do you want to ask a question, my darling? You want to ask a question? Do you want to? Yeah.
Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, my darling. Welcome. Where are you coming in from? Are you in London, out of London?
Yeah, I'm in South London.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So our question was about melanin and insomnia. Is there a link at all? Or
Say again?
Insomnia.
Insomnia, yeah. What's the question?
Is there a link between maybe your diet and insomnia at all?
Yes.
Long-term. I meant long-term insomnia. Not just the occasional odd night where you can't sleep, but a long period.
You mean like these are chronic sleeping issues?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, there's a massive connection between melanin and insomnia in so many different ways. In the most basic way, you have your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake cycle, your internal body clock. Your melatonin deals with the nighttime, and your serotonin deals with your day. So now, when it comes to insomnia, there's multiple reasons for it. There's psychological reasons, biological reasons, and emotional reasons why. So it's not a one answer that just spreads across that, but I want to focus on where melanin's place is. So when it comes to melanin concentrated hormones, it's also a big part of the sleep-wake cycle. That melanin concentrated hormones and those melatonin and those human growth hormones are essential at night. Now, if you're dealing with stress, anxiety, if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with some sort of cognitive displacement around just the day-to-day stuff, sleep will become a problem. Now, if it's about diet, eating late will interfere with good night's sleep. Eating improper, eating too much sugar, eating too much stimulating food can be a problem also in terms of insomnia. There are brain and chemical imbalances as well due to exhaustion and overexertion that also deal with insomnia. But melanin itself can play a role in each of these type of things. So melatonin, for example, it controls and gives you the sleep. But if your melatonin, right, is disturbed because serotonin, which is made in your gut, is a precursor to making melatonin and is a neurotransmitter. If you have mood issues, meaning that you just don't feel good within, that can also connect to not sleeping properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So as far as a melanated person is concerned, depending on your diet, exercise, depending on stress levels, melanin will play a role in all these kind of things, because melanin is the umbrella of what governs your existence biophysically and biospiritually. So things like turning off even the television an hour before, or even electronic devices that interfere with the state of sleep that's pending, because those things give out electromagnetic waves that affect the brain waves in itself. So you have that element of it as well. So the whole point of insomnia for me is trying to have a holistic view and be like, am I eating properly? Am I exercising? Am I making sure I'm not eating late? Am I creating stress-free environments for myself internally? And until you attack all these things, you won't really be able to put the mind back in its natural harmonious rhythm. And that really is the problem with insomnia. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But if anything I said don't make no sense, tell me where and I'll go over it. It's not a problem at all.
No, it's fine. It's more understanding the melatonin levels to understand when they are at a good rate.
You be
Yeah.
asleep. When they're at a good level, you be fast asleep. Put it that way. So, for example, what's the latest you eat, for example?
I don't tend to do late night eating.
You exercise?
I do, and then mostly early in the morning.
Early in the morning. Do you get enough rest? Do you manage stress properly?
It could be a bit of stress. It could be the fact that maybe the work pattern has changed. It could be those things as well, and the diet's not matching up with the work pattern, if you understand.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
so
absolutely,
I think more of that, but I don't want to go to the doctor because I don't want them to give me like, sleeping pills or anything that's just gonna possibly make things worse. I kind of want to just manage it myself.
If it's chronic, is it a chronic thing in terms of like how many hours of sleep would you normally get, for example?
I'll say probably between the ages of 3 and 5 hours. Right.
So this will be severe. So normally I tell people when you go to a doctor just to get a breakdown, it's not necessary to take their medication all the time. Depending on the severity of it, sometimes you might need to. So when you say you're taking care of yourself, do you have all the information accessible? Do you have all the resources to be able to do something about it?
Yeah.
Right. So it means set a plan, be thorough, be disciplined, and be able to stick to it. Because as human beings, especially if you're a mother, if you've got responsibilities, it's like you're pulled in a million directions. So generally speaking, finding time for yourself and managing a much more work shifts pattern. If you're working late, for example, and you're doing a night shift, it's almost damn near impossible because you're already completely out of sync with what's supposed to happen, but we got to make a living, so we got to do the night shift. So it means when you come home, sleep, so your body at least gets enough rest to rejuvenate, to do something else. But if it's chronically dealing with that, there are supplements to take to help you sleep. If it's chronic and it's affecting your health, then I personally think you can do both. Yes, you can self-manage it and also take like a melatonin supplement as well for a short period of time, not long-term. Don't use it as my day-to-day helper, but for a short period of time. Normally they recommend for like 2 weeks just to get the body back in the rhythm. So it does depend. I'm not a fan of just don't go to the doctor. It really depends on where you are, and how well you're equipped to deal with it by yourself and how educated you are about insomnia to understand how to manage it. Because outside of that, you might just end up just losing more sleep. Because it's with holistic healing, it's not overnight. It's going to take time, possibly a year or two. It's not a short remedy with holistic, because if you spend so many, it's taking a time for your body to get there. The insomnia shows up as a result of what's happening years before that. The insomnia is not the beginning of what's happening. It's a revelation of what the body's saying, I'm tapping out. We can't even sleep. That's how bad it is. So it depends on that. But consultation, if you want to do it holistically, consultation with a nutritionist specialist or nutritional therapist would be the best way to go about it, or sleep specialist as well. But I don't want Black community to negate the medical system completely. Even though I understand some of the challenges we faced, I still think it's dangerous when we do not have all the resources and equipment available to do it, and we just completely negate it. Two things can coexist, and both things can be right depending on how you use it. I'll go to my doctor to give me a better insight to what's happening. Give me a blood test, give me the things I need. Then if it's something I haven't got access to, I take what they're giving me and eat properly and exercise and do that alongside. I don't pick one over the other as a general rule. I just, look at it critically, understand what is practical versus what is not, because I work too long hours to be able to figure out everything on a day off. So I hope that makes more sense.
Of course, yes, it does.
Yeah. All right, Mel, no problem. Appreciate your question. Very good one.
Thank you for your question, Mel. And I hope you get the insomnia started out or join the course. So you can get more information.
Yeah, we'll teach you how to do it.
Because education is power, isn't it? So the more you know, the more you can do to help yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Get a consultation in if you want to do it holistically, and at least get all the tools you need, and you can actually make proper results happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Are there any more questions? Anything in the chat, Montrese, my darling? No. Oh, it's very quiet tonight, isn't it? We really have an abundance of questions. Yeah.
Any nutritional questions or anything about the course?
Yes. About melanin.
Right.
No.
It's a lot of information anyway, so it's recorded. So I hope people can re-watch it. You know, this is why this course is set up. So if it's something you're interested in and you want to study more about melanin and nutrition from a different perspective, then definitely this course is for you. I have a book called The Melanin Effect. For people that sign up on the course, they get a free copy of it. And it's there to guide you into understanding your biology a lot more and understanding exactly why you are the way you are. Bear in mind, melanin is also responsible for how you feel about yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your reality. Even falling in love is melanin that's doing it. Nobody, whether you're black, white, Asian, I don't care where you're from, nobody falls in love without melanin. Do you understand? So when you're experiencing melanin, you are love. You're an abundance of it. That's what you are. But somewhere down the line, interference through colonialism and everything else turned that on its head, and now we feel like we're full of something else, and we have to compete with how we look, how we feel, and how constantly people are perceiving us. But melanin itself is responsible for every love connection possible. Melanin is involved. That's just the bottom line. Even from a conceptual point, when you're making a baby, it is the power of that connection that sparks that melanin to create life. Please make no mistake, the way we deal with melanin is not the way our ancestors left this information behind for us to understand, because understanding melanin can be the key to unlocking our creativity, our health, how we interact with each other, how we deal with trauma. In fact, it's something I've had conversations with my parents are psychotherapists. So I had conversations about how we can link melanin into practicing, talking to Africans about how that is affecting our mood and how we feel. Right? Serotonin affects your mood and how you feel about yourself. So serotonin is a melanin-based hormone. And if you don't understand how that hormone is moving and maneuvering through your system on a monthly, 30-day basis, you know, for people that's been on my program, I talk about how hormones affect diet, how diet affects hormones, and how eating the right type of food can make menopausal symptoms go away, can make the heavy periods go away. So all of those conversations from a pure scientific point is going to be something fun that we're going to do and deep dive into. So my lectures, apart from doing workshops, are very interactive. We conversate about it, what we've learned and what we're seeing about melanin. What is the new conversation about how we psychologically take in trauma, for example? You know, melanin is responsible for how you deal with trauma and how it decodes it. So I hope that people are interested in learning more about their melanin. It starts on the first Sunday of March, so we still got a week left. To jump on the course. I've got a discount code for the Queen's group as well. It's in there. You know, if you got any questions from me or whatever the case may be, then I'll put my email in the chat as well, so you can reach out to me and let me know if you got any questions, or reach out to Joan. Joan will put me in touch with everyone that needs to get contacted and so forth.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the discount code. So it's what, Melanin 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's for the Queens, is it?
Yeah, for the Queen. Everyone in this live.
Okay.
That's the code for you.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Well, the session has been, if anybody wants to re-watch it, so to speak, please go on to our Facebook page, which is We Love Health and Wellbeing. If you're a YouTube person, please visit our YouTube channel, which is Queen's 2020 Lockdown Series. You can watch the whole session again. So this is part 2. We did a part 1. I think that was on the 5th of February, we did part 1. So that was live streamed again onto Facebook and streamed through to our YouTube channel. So I just want to thank everybody for being on the platform this morning. Thank you, Joe. Big up, Joe, for telling us all about the course. Fantastic. And I thank our wonderful Montrese, Queen Montrese. Amazing, our wonderful chat moderator. Can I also thank Rudy James, business partner, and has also been doing a bit of moderating in the back, letting everybody in. And of course, King Leon for sorting out the YouTube live stream for us. Thank you all. Again, some of you came onto the platform a bit late, so I can tell you a bit about the Queens. I think some of you have been with the Queens Zoom for some time. So as you know, a lot of you will know that I'm not Zooming as much as I used to because I'm back out walking with my group. So I'm really happy about that. We're back out all over South East London, all the Queens walking groups that are out as well walking. Quickly big up some of them. So we've got the East London Queens, the Croydon Queens, the Luton Queens or the Luton Hikers, Harrow and Stanmore, Milton Keynes. There are so many, the Tottenham Queens, the Croydon Queens, so many Queens to name, Queen walking groups. But just to thank everybody for for being part of, what we created, what we've been doing. So absolutely fantastic. So as I said before, we completed our wonderful London Winter Walk back in January. We're now busy speeding up to our Easter Cultural Markets. We've got the first market it's on Sunday, 10th of April, and it's going to be at venue 28, which is 28 Beckenham Road, BR3 1LY. It's opposite Clock House train station, so it's really, really easy to get to. We've got our second cultural market, which is actually on the Good Friday, and it's going to be at Beckenham Place Park in the Mansion House, so you can't miss it. It's the only mansion house in the park. So yes, come on down. We're going to have an array of wonderful Black businesses. So if you're into your shungite, if you're into your lovely cakes, your rum cake and your sorrel cake, you can come and get plenty of cake. If you're into your African attire, we'll have stalls doing that. We've got the wonderful, who else is going to be? Jamaica Valley is going to be there. So they do all the Caribbean seasoning and the ackee and saltfish. Come and shop till you drop. It's going to be a wonderful day. Both markets, they're always fantastic. And we're always dancing at the market. As soon as we have some kind of line dancing tune come on, we'll be there doing Jerusalem. We'll be there doing Candy. We'll be just there having lots and lots of fun. Yeah, so it's not just coming to market. There's a bit more. There's a twist to how we do market. So everybody's, more than welcome to come down and join us. So the first one, which is on Sunday, the 10th of April, which is going to be at venue 28. Our second market, 5 days later, will be at Beckenham Place Park in the Mansion House, so you can't miss it. In celebration of the Queens, when I created the Queens Walking Group, it was only meant to be for 6 weeks. And 2 years on, we're going to be holding a fantastic ball. So dust off those ball gowns and get your hair done and the nails and the lashes. Get ready and just come out and party with us. Let's celebrate us. Let's celebrate the mere fact that we've come through. We're coming through the pandemic. And it's just to big up and celebrate. I can't say enough. Celebrate life. Celebrate the mere fact that together, Queens walking groups created up and down the country. We're all going to be coming together just to meet each other. So it will be the first time some of us will have met, and some of the groups were created last year. So it's going to be an amazing session. We're going to have a wonderful 3-course Caribbean meal. We're going to have a fantastic fashion show. We're going to have some bad DJs spinning the tunes. So I'm really looking forward to that. But it's a celebration of us. So really looking forward to doing that. And that's in July, Saturday, 2nd of July. So ticket information, it's all in the chat. You can ring me, my number and everything is in the chat if you want further information. If anybody wants to sponsor a table, please get in touch. But tickets are on sale. We've got a payment scheme in place. So yeah, come, all will be welcome. We're looking forward to seeing everybody come and party with us and just celebrate the Queens Walking Group at our 2-year, because we couldn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but we're going to be out partying hard, dancing hard, and just having lots of fun. And it's just be great for us all to be, coming together. We've got a couple of pop-ups coming up. So pop-ups are happening. One is on the 12th of March, which is going to be in Catford, South East London, and the second one is going to be in Peckham at the Morrisons. All health pop-ups. Come and find out about all the different health initiatives we've got going on. We're a walking group and we are predominantly about health, but we do have other strands and other bits and pieces, other projects that we're doing. So on that note, I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful Saturday night. Well, it's Saturday night here in the UK. So wherever you are, have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to go on the course that Joe has spoken about this evening, it's absolutely fantastic, especially if you've done the intermittent fasting. This will build on the knowledge that was gained if you were part of any of those programs that we did last year. So on that note, I just want to thank again Montrese, Queen Montrese. Thank you, my darling, our wonderful chat moderator. Thank you, King Leon, our wonderful YouTube person who links it all up for us in the background. You're amazing. Thank you to Rudy James, who's been doing some of the moderating and letting people into the chat, onto the platform. And yes, have a fantastic evening. And thank you all for joining us for the Queen's session. Science of Melanin and Nutrition. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Take care. Bye. Bye. Take care. Right, so we've stopped live